It's like airing your dirty
Bone
laundry.
Street right there for everybody.
Well, the thing is, it's all innuendo. It's all
Like,
didn't work on Facebook. You thought she'd upload.
There's something.
what's something?
You and me both.
All right, let's go.
Okay, good evening. I'm going to call to order the Planning Commission meeting tonight, Tuesday, November 1st. In addition to participating in person, members of the public may participate remotely by electronic means. It should be pretty clear. You can join by the webinar using Zoom and during the public comment period, participants on Zoom may raise their hand using the Zoom controls on the computer screen. If you're dialing in, you dial *9 on the phone. We're going to start this evening with the invocation with Dr. Brown, our vice chair.
Dear Father, please help us to address these issues that come before us in a fair, factual way. Keeping us always mindful of the many lives that will be impacted by what we decide tonight. Thank you for giving us a wonderful county to live in and help us work to keep it that way. Amen.
Amen. Okay, second is the adoption of the agenda. Are there any requests to postpone any action or amend the agenda? Okay, do I have a motion to accept the agenda?
So moved.
A second. All in favor? Aye. Okay, moving on to administrative items. We need to approve the minutes from October 4th. It was a regular meeting. Are there any corrections or issues with the minutes?
I didn't see him.
I read through them, but some of you guys are much better eagle eyes than I am. I did not see any issues. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes as written?
I'll motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. We're going to move into our public comment period. The general public comment period is now open. You may comment on planning related that are not scheduled for a public hearing later in the meeting. So you may come forward, comment there now. You have 3 minutes. Please state your name and your address and come up to the mic, please. Thank you. And not tonight. Okay, so the 2 conditional use permits tonight, there'll be a public comment period with those. You can come forward at that time. This is something outside of those. Does anyone have anything they would like to comment on that's not in a conditional use permit for this evening? Is there anyone at home that needs to comment? Okay, great. We will close the public comment. There is no old business this evening. So we will move right into our public hearings. And I take it that you're going to give us the introduction to the first. Thank you. Is your mic on? Ah.
All right, so today, this is our case for a CUP 22-06 for Mr. Morissette. He is requesting a conditional use permit for a contractor storage yard along Mosley Road. It does not have an address. The current designation is it is A10, and the district is 2. So here's where it's positioned. You can see it's very close to the Chesterfield line over in Mosley. And current zoning is A10. Across the street is I1 and I2. And then we have our RU kind of in the corner over there. So defining contractor storage yard means an outdoor storage area operated by or on behalf of a contractor. For Mr. Morissette's use, he's going to be using this area as a storage for his concrete business. He eventually wants to have a plan for a warehouse down the line, but he does not have any plans for that at the moment. So here's kind of the rough layout of how he wants to position the business on the property. You can see that he has areas for his trucks and his equipment, but eventually he kind of wants to have a warehouse, mainly just to store his trucks. That's his goal. So along with this, we've had some conditions that we've laid out for Mr. Morissette, or for this property, excuse me. Basically, the conditions are to assure that the surrounding properties will not be affected by his business. A lot of it has to do with buffers, specific storage for his trucks, and hours of operation. So I've listed all of them out. I'm not going to read them all, but basically that's the gist of it. And then I have one of the important ones is he needs to have a maximum of 6 volumetric concrete mixing trucks. So I pulled some pictures of what these trucks look like. And Mr. Morissette has told me that these are trucks where you put in the raw materials, the truck mixes it offsite. So there's no concrete mixing happening on his parcel. It's all done on the job site. And then I think that was it. I had the last slide. What did I put on the last slide? Buffers. I defined a buffer. One of our conditions was for a type C buffer. This is our opaque buffer. It's the most dense. I just wanted to put in a picture and a little bit of definition of what that buffer looks like. In addition, we had some public comments. I put a sheet on all of your table there, and we've gotten some comments from emails, and I got a phone call.
And the public comment, whoops, excuse me. And public comment, you can get up and we'll try to clarify. Thank you. Are
Happy to
you
take any questions.
okay? So the applicant, well, no, we're going to have the public comment and then we'll have our questions
Okay,
for you.
great.
Does the applicant have anything they would like to say this evening?
I don't know if he's here.
He's not here. Okay. All right. Well, what we'll do is we'll open it for public comment. And then after we hear the public, and then we'll have our questions.
All right.
And because we need to hear what the public has to say first. Okay, so please come forward on this particular 22-06 CUP, the Morissette conditional use permit. Come forth and state your name and address, please.
Hi, I'm Wally Dorsey. I live at 1913 Mosley Road. There's one neighbor between me and where this prospective place is going to be. And there's plenty of commercial stuff across the street. We're all residential on that particular side of the tracks. And I saw bitumen on the truck and it just doesn't seem like a good fit for where we are. Plenty of industrial space across the street though.
Okay, well, thank you.
Pretty simple.
Okay, thank you. Please come forward, state your name and address. Take your time. We're not rushing.
Good evening. My name is Clifton Howell. I live next door to where this location is, where you just been talking about. And it's residential everywhere on each side of where he is going. They even building a new house next door. I can't really understand why there would even be a question about trying to put something there. Across the track, like Mr. Wiley just said, mostly everything over there is kind of like more suited for anything that would be involved in those trucks. But right where they talking about putting it, there's houses right there on both sides. So I don't understand. I'm completely against it. I hope this don't work. I hope that you reject this idea. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to come forward? Please come forward. Take your time, state your name and address, please.
My name is Robert Lipford, 1931 Mosley Road. That drive will actually be coming right up beside my house and everything back behind my house. I've actually moved my bedroom all the way to the back of the house. I want to hear the road traffic. Where am I going to get at now? Because the traffic be going beside my house and behind my house. It's nowhere for to go. The property will run this way for the access road. And then it'll be making a right going back here behind me. And is it going to cost me to have to put up a privacy fence all around my corners of the house? So that I won't have to get all the dust and to cut down the sound from me? It's ridiculous. I mean, like I said, across the street, it's zoned for all that stuff. We don't have, we're agricultural side. My other neighbor, Clifton, he's got cattle and all back there. And running the concrete trucks, my son works at the rock quarry. And he said that running on the gravel and all, the heavy trucks running on that gravel is going to kick up a type of crystal from that stone that they put down. I have hard enough time breathing as it is. That's why I ain't gonna be standing up here. I can't talk too much. But no, I really can't see that. They told me when they had the place up for sale, they want to sell, put 3 houses back there. They got one place where the man's getting ready to build, and he's gonna be on the other side of me. And the road will be going between us. I don't think he's even here. But it's not feasible. And we're just down from Sinkwell soil. Sinkwell soil is all the way at the corner where it turns to go into Chesterfield County. And he'll be about 100 yards, maybe 125 yards from Chesterfield County. So he won't have to pay all the taxes in Chesterfield County, I reckon. But all that's going to do, that's going to end up making me move. I wouldn't be able to handle it. Thank you.
Thank you. Please come forward.
My name is Joyce Ferris. I live at 2055 Mosley Road. So I have a couple questions. Does Mr. Morissette have contracts with Magnolia Green, or like what's his purpose for putting it there? Just, he obviously has a large business if you have all that equipment. So is that relevant? Is that something that we've answered? Like, I'm thinking about Magnolia Green and what's going to happen there in that part of Chesterfield. Nobody knows. Okay. Does the railroad, are they aware of all these concrete trucks going over their tracks daily? Equipment, heavy equipment, do they have any say at all? Are they, I guess they have to accommodate their tracks for all kinds of equipment. So that's something I think about. I know where Mr. Howell lives. Do we know how many trucks are going to be coming up and down Mosley Road every day, and which direction? Because they could be coming from Chesterfield, or they could be coming from Powhatan. So does anybody have how much traffic that would entail? Okay, okay. Also, they're not here, but you know, you've got Bradbury, is that what you call that road, Jay? Bradbury Road, there's a lot of people in there, a lot. And also Lacey Farm Road, all of that area, there's people out there. It's not industrial places, it's just not. So please take all this into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else present that would like to speak? Is there anyone at home?
Yes. What controls would be in place to prevent erosion? Already causing.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, welcome. Please welcome.
I think it's for the soil solutions case.
Welcome. You may want to unmute yourself. Is she still there? Hello? There you go. Good evening. Please state your name and address.
We lost her.
Oh, I'm sorry, it's not a good connection. I,
Put the question on
mm, I tell you what, we will go on with our discussion, and if she comes back, let us know, and we will certainly let her have her public forum, so we won't be sitting here waiting. Ma'am, we can't hear you. It's very choppy. Maybe if you disconnect and reconnect, maybe you'll get a better connection with us.
Just call in.
What?
Can she call in? Just call in.
Yeah, she can call in. That's fine as well.
We're going to have to make a 5-minute recess. The YouTube channel needs to be occupied by both us and the.
At the
board
same
at
time,
the Same time.
that's
So we're
what's
gonna figure out
happening.
those logistics very quickly.
All right, we'll take a 5-minute break.
To anybody that's online, we're gonna try and paste the link to the meeting in the board Zoom. So check in there to see the link to our meeting.
Mm.
We would service Chesterfield, not Powhatan. Of course, we would service Powhatan if they wanted us to, but we would be in Powhatan approximately 2/10 of a mile before we enter Chesterfield. We would be entering Magnolia Green in about 7 miles. We would be entering Harper's Mill in about 8 miles to 360. And then whenever 288 opened up, we would be using that exit to service the rest of the community. Now, y'all have to excuse me because I'm extremely upset. The noise factor will be minimal at best. The property around the area is already zoned either light industrial or heavy industrial. Although those properties are not in use at this point, they could become active at any point. We're going to be a friendly neighbor. We're going to clean up good. We're going to create buffers. We're open to suggestions from the neighborhood to make it so that people like what we're doing. We want to be a good neighbor. Now, the equipment that we're going to purchase over the next 4 or 5 years will equate to $3 or $4 million worth of capital investment on equipment, which would provide an enormous amount of tax revenue to the county. Although maybe that's not important, but I kind of feel like it is, that we're contributing to the county's need for money, because we know they need it, or the county needs it. I've lived in the county since 1989. All my kids were born here. They went to school here. They graduated school here. And I'm very, very proud of my sons. They're all gentlemen. And the trucks themselves are state of the art. They really are. They are as good as it gets. We are green friendly. We don't create any hazard, any mess. There is no concrete plant at all. Every truck we have is a batch plant on wheels. So when we go to a job site, we manufacture the concrete on the job site, not on the property in Powhatan. That's extremely important because of any contaminants or erosion control or any of the above. So it's extremely important, plus the revenue that comes into play. We'll be eventually employing approximately 13 employees. They will make $77,000 per year or above. It's one of those things where they're probably going to make $100,000 a year, but it's based on an incentive program. We have an incentive program, we have a bonus program, and then we have the regular wage program. Plus we provide medical benefits. So it's pretty much a good jobs for the county. Now, with that being said, we're still a concrete business. We still have the trucks. We still have 6 trucks. We still have the trucks bringing raw materials to the job or to the site, which would be stone, which is aggregate, sand, which is another type of aggregate, and powder. The powder, which is cement, it's enclosed in a airtight, it's called a silo, but no dust enters the air. It is very non-contaminated to the air, which I think is extremely important. I don't like smelling stuff, neither does anybody else. It's not like your regular concrete situation. So with that being said, if you guys have any questions, I'll be happy to answer anything that you have. I've spent 10 months since we started this doing research on the process, the product, the need in the market, and all of the things and any of the things that you guys can ask. I'll answer those questions for you.
Thank you. No, I'm sorry. I know. Sorry, you can get up at the public comment now and you're not asked,
Am I finished?
are you, yes, do you have anything else to say? I don't want to rush you off.
I do not. I'll be glad to respond.
Okay, we'll have a discussion if you just hang tight. Okay, we haven't closed public comment, so you can voice your comment or
Well,
question.
I worked at Powhatan Ready-Mix for about 2 years before I messed my knees up. He's talking about 16 loads the most a day. All right, he didn't tell you about how many loads of gravel, how many loads of sand, and how many loads of rock is going to be brought in there every day by 18 wheelers. How many will that be?
You can't, sir.
I can't ask direct to him.
No, but
Well, he didn't say that.
we'll find out for you.
All right.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir. Please come forward. If you would state your name and address would be appreciated. That's okay. We got yours.
John Ferris, 2055 Mosley Road. Sounds like you might have a great concrete business going, but those roads, the bottom line is those roads weren't designed for all that traffic, you know. And putting safety number one, you know, the roads aren't built for those big trucks, that much traffic coming up and down Mosley Road right there. It's gonna destroy the road. So that's about all I have.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there anyone else that would like to come forward in the public comment? Anyone called in or whatever tonight? So we're clear. Okay, I will close the public comment. If someone does show up, let us know. And Okay, at this point, the planning commission, we're going to discuss the information presented to us and we may ask the applicant some more questions. It is,
I will start
You'll
because
s-
this is in my district.
that'd be great. Thank you.
Okay, so Mr. Morissette met with myself and some of the board members. It's been quite a few months ago and detailed his plan, what he would like to do. I don't think he had a particular property in mind at that time, but I was impressed with what he was going to do, how clean it was, how much revenue it bring to the county and all of that. And I was thinking, well, this is a great idea. So I'm looking at, I knew where he had proposed to put this and thought about it. And I was thinking about, the people nearby, what they would think, but nobody has called me or expressed any concern until tonight. And now I'm seeing all these people that I've known I've known John Ferris forever. And then, you said I think you lived down there all your life. And when yeah. So when you have people that have been around there start coming up here and expressing their concerns, I've been in their shoes before, coming up and opposing certain things that were going to go near a farm, whatnot. So I understand how they feel. So this is going to be a very hard decision for me. But I am impressed with what Mr. Morissette's doing, and I think the county can benefit financially. But I have to just to take into account, is this the right spot for it? And I know that somebody mentioned, yes, it is industrial across the street. And at some point there will be industrial things going on. But as for now, I've never known that would be for sale, and it may not be for sale for a long time, but that will be about right. And you won't be able to stop that. Right now, the people do have a right to express their concerns. And this is going to be a very difficult decision for me.
Thank you. Anyone else? Questions, comments? Mr. Hall?
I'll go next, since one of the longest people here living in the county. And then was friends with a family over on Mosley Road and was spent a lot of time over there. Rode through there again this past weekend. And I was really shocked at the condition that the road was, how bad it has deteriorated over the years. Personally, I feel it's not suitable for any truck traffic at all. It's that bad a shape. Mr. Morissette has a great proposed a great new job employment and business. I did research and did go online and looked in great detail. It is a fascinating way for a concrete operation to work. It is clean. It's just plain neat. That's all it is. I was fascinated. I just started watching it and watched the whole thing and actually saw the two different manufacturers of the trucks and watch both of their videos. So I think that's great. I just personally feel that it would be much better if it could be on the other side of the railroad tracks where it's already for industrial. The only problem there again still would be servicing the Chesterfield part. You'd be going across the railroad tracks, making that turn and going on that deteriorated road already that's not in any shape or form to accept any kind of a concrete truck or 18-wheelers that'll be bringing sand or gravel in there. So those are my concerns. The hours of operation, 6:30 a.m. was in my book in that neighborhood is a little bit early to start. I would have preferred to see like 8 o'clock the start time if it was as far as being a condition. But the road and being right there in the neighborhood with nothing but residential houses on that side of the street is a major concern of mine.
Thank you, Mr. Hall.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I agree with everything that Mr. Hall said. I drove that road twice. I drove it and then because I wasn't familiar with the area. And then I drove it again just to make sure that, I was, passing judgment correctly. And I just don't see how that road handles truck traffic, the size of these trucks, no matter how clean they are, which I do appreciate, but we get back to appropriate location and traffic safety. And I think there's issues with both of those, with this great business and not a good location and not a safe traffic issue for me.
Dr. Brown?
We use the roads as the reason we deny good ideas, we won't ever move forward. I agree the road's not ideal, but the people driving it are commercial licensed drivers. They have specialized skill. And I can't, this looks like a good project. I can't throw this under the bus because people have feelings about the road. I agree, the road's not an interstate, but it's more likely to be addressed with a business on it and with the stuff across the street than if nothing is done. And I really appreciated the effort that was put into the buffering, because I think that is key when people are concerned about noise as well as not seeing it and still being able to feel like they're in a residential area. I think they meet the bar for me.
Are you done, Dr. Brown?
Yes.
My question is, I want to understand, because I cut through there to go to Magnolia Green a lot. So the bad part, the road, I'm not clear that is it Chesterfield owned part of Mosley Road that's in rough shape? Or is it the Powhatan part, Mr. Hopkins?
That's a great question.
It's, so your intent, Mr. Morissette, is for the trucks to leave your property and go strictly to Chesterfield area? Yes, please, because it needs to be recorded on the mic, sir. Thank you.
The way that it works is that the industry has a demand for the concrete. And probably 95 to 98% of the concrete would come out of our potential site and make a right-hand turn, drive approximately 2/10 of a mile on a Powhatan County road before it hits Chesterfield County. And that's something I've measured. Now, the road itself is there, and it appears to me that the road's just fine. I think it's impossible to say how the road will hold up. The trucks that I purchased are state of the art. They've got 5 axles underneath of them, so we don't do as much wear and tear on the road as what you may think. Now, with that being said, our intention is 90 to 98% of the production goes to Chesterfield, which is 2/10 of a mile on a Powhatan County road. The rest of it is in Chesterfield. And to be perfectly honest, not throwing any rocks or anything, but if the mill fires back up, or if the industrial property across the street fires back up, they're going to have the right to run trucks on the road by right. And we are not going to be a bad neighbor. We're just simply not. And the amount of trucks to begin with is 2 trucks for us. Now, one of the constituents said that they worry about the amount of gravel and stone that comes in. So basically what it amounts to is we got 10 yards a day going out for each truck, 3 loads a day, which is 60 yards, which means that 60 yards of material has to come back in. So in reality, 60 yards is about 4,000 pounds a yard. So you got 400, excuse me, you got 200 and, you got $240,000, excuse me, 240,000 pounds of material coming back in. Each tractor and trailer, as they mentioned, generally hauls about 26,000 pounds. So you're looking at 10 trucks coming in to deliver the materials that we will then break down smaller amounts that will go on the volumetric trucks that go out. Now, the road, no disrespect to anybody, but it is a state road. And if it needs maintenance, it should have already been taken care of. I personally don't see it as a maintenance issue myself, but everybody's entitled to their own opinion. We will be a good neighbor, okay? We really will. And we want to give people the buffer, the sound buffer. We want to make everything good. We're a clean, green-friendly product that produces a lot. And when we're finished at the end of 4 years, we'll have approximately $4 million worth of equipment on the ground. Y'all can do the math as to how it adds to the county's coffers. We're open to paying our taxes and doing the things we're supposed to do. But it is a good company. Now, you guys, it's up to y'all, but concrete trucks come up and down that road. They do, and so do other trucks. And there's no way to stop it. We're not going to put any unnecessary wear on the road. It's still a matter of a limited traffic, especially in the beginning when we just got 2 trucks running, which are 60 yards a day, which is 4 times 60 is 240 yards of concrete per day at 4,000 pounds per yard. So when you do the math, I think that the state has the obligation to keep that road up. It is a state maintained road. Now, the trucks are not going to be moving fast. They're simply not. The trucks are going to move approximately 25 to 30 miles an hour through that section, 0.2 of a mile through Powhatan County. That's just the fact. So we're not talking about taking it all the way down Mosley Road. And we understand that people never, there's always people that are apprehensive about change. But I tried to buy the property that's zoned heavy industrial where the wood mill was at. I tried to buy the property across the street. It's in this zone industrial. They wouldn't sell it. Okay, so they obviously have plans to do something with that property. And obviously you're going to get far more traffic than we ever dreamed of doing. That's just the truth. I tried other alternatives before we reached this point. If you guys, if y'all make it, I'm non-confrontational, okay? If you don't want us there, okay, I'll move someplace else to another county, to another area. People want our money. They want a clean, environmentally friendly concrete place with no batch plant, with nothing sticking up in the air, with not all the noise. We're as good as it gets when the concrete business. There's an infrastructure bill that's coming through that has to do with roads and infrastructure for the entire state of Virginia. It's $4.5 billion that the state gets. And a lot of that concrete can come out of our trucks because we can make any kind of mix they can dream of. We're not limited to what a barrel plant can do. We can make latex overlays for bridges. We can make anything that they can dream of. Those trucks can make on demand with no waste, no volume. As far as the amount of volume that has to take place as far as throwing concrete away. When the barrel truck shows up, if the concrete's too old, you got about a 30-minute limitation that concrete's bad. They got to send it back and throw it away. Our volumetric trucks, the concrete is only 1 minute old or 1 minute new, which means that we don't encounter the same problems that a barrel truck encounters for doing statewide projects. We have no limitation on the miles that we can travel to do work. It is truly a great, great scenario for everybody involved here. Now, you guys, the ball's in y'all's court because I am not gonna fight y'all. I'm not.
Okay.
Whatever y'all decide is what I'm going to do.
Well, now, you understand, we recommend, and then it goes to the Board of Supervisors, and they're the final say.
Yes, ma'am,
So
I
we
do.
will rule this evening, and it's a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors.
Yes, ma'am, I do. I just want y'all to
Okay.
be thoroughly understanding that our goal is, number one, we want, me and my family, it's a family business. We want to create a business on Mosley Road that we can make money, let there be no mistake, that's our goal. But also to do it in a very green friendly way. Although, let there be no mistake, I'm a conservative, I mean, it is what it is. But it doesn't mean I don't care about the environment. This is the best thing for the environment as far as concrete goes that exists, period, the end, and I can answer any and all questions
Okay.
involving that.
Well,
So I want you guys to understand that I'm not confrontational with y'all. I'm
Okay.
really not.
well, thank you. All right, well, we'll discuss a little
I
further.
have
I
questions. for
appreciate
him.
y'all putting up with me.
You have,
because-
okay, excuse me,
I do have some questions for you.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you state where the supplies would be coming from, the stone and the concrete mix and all that?
Yes, ma'am. The stone and the sand will be coming from Lux Stone, but it has to come through, on Dorset Road, because you're not allowed to bring materials down Stave Mill. Because it
Correct.
doesn't
You
allow
would
big
still come
trucks.
down Mosley Road.
Unless we, no, not down Mosley Road, down Dorset to Genito.
So you'd
Back
come
up.
around the back way?
Yes,
You
ma'am.
would not be going down Mosley Road?
No,
So,
ma'am.
so,
No, not at all.
okay,
It's not good for the trucks. It's not good for anybody.
okay. The gentleman in the second row here had concerns about the trucks coming in the driveway, making a lot of dust. Do you have any plans to potentially maybe pave that entrance?
Absolutely. We're in the concrete business. I know that sounds funny, but we will, in the first 18 months, we intend to concrete the driveway all the way in back to where we're going to be loading trucks. We're going to make the concrete for that road with our trucks, but that's the only concrete that will ever be made on site is what we put there for our entranceway and keep the dust down. I'm not even remotely concerned about the dust.
Two more questions.
Yes, ma'am.
You have I believe this mixing area. Nature, I'm trying to read that, natural area, okay. Whereabouts on this property are you going to be doing the loading?
Okay, if you look at that drawing very clearly, it shows you the loading area. It'll show you where the hoppers are at to put the powder in there.
Okay.
It shows you where the stone goes, where the
It's
sand goes.
page,
Now-
let's see,
Is there any possible way?
34.
This is what I'm leading to. You have a 65-foot buffer
Yes,
proffered,
ma'am.
correct?
Mhm.
Is there any possible way that where the property adjoins your neighbors that actually have residential homes there to increase that proffer?
To the left or the right?
Wherever it is, there's somebody that lives close to your.
How
to-
much
to
do
the-
you want to increase it?
Right, so if you go back
I mean, we
towards,
got a lot more land than we need, so how much do you want to
Mr.
back
increase it?
towards Mosley Road,
Yes,
back
ma'am.
where you cross the railroad
Can,
tracks.
can we get him to put, because I have the similar question. I want to understand where the houses are in relation to the property.
You can see it on this drawing.
Yeah, I know. That's how I was going to get him to put
Right.
it up on the screen so
Okay.
everyone can see it. Is it possible, Mr. Hopkins, that you could put up on the screen? Possibly page 37 would be good because it shows all the parcels.
Page 18 is good too.
36.
Well, 37 in color, it looks,
okay.
you see what I'm saying right
Yeah,
there?
yeah.
That looks nice, that if we could just point out where the homes were to understand what we can do. Do you see what I'm talking about, Mr.
do.
Hopkins?
Bear with
36
me.
is good.
Yeah, 36 or
36 is good
37.
because you can see the
Yes,
houses right there.
36 or 37,
put up
either one,
page
that's true.
36.
you.
Nothing like asking for hard things tonight. There we go. Now, my understanding though, if we ask him to alter his drawing somewhat, we would have to ask for a continuance to next month, right? Because that would be changing what he's submitting to us. Is that
So
correct?
on a CUP, we can condition him. It's not a problem. So,
We can condition it. We do not have to.
correct. But I think some manner of working that out on some level, if it's feasible, we do have in there for the type C buffer, which is
Nice.
65 feet and a certain amount of screening, or it can go down to 35 with the fence.
I guess, are you leaning towards Ms. Bowen that pushing, it looks like to me, if you're looking at this, the far right, if the driveway's pushed more to the far right, is that away from the houses
The
more?
driveway is away from the houses, but I'm talking too about the buffer where the land butts right up against that first house there. I'm sure that's a 65-foot buffer there.
Right there where he's
Yes,
pointing.
but there aren't
yes.
going to be any buildings there, but would there be room to still get the driveway in and still leave more buffer? And then, of course, where it goes down towards, behind the actual, that house, and then that, yeah, right through there.
Yeah,
Although they've got on their
that's where
drawing.
they've got all the
That's why I was asking
equipment.
about the mixing area, if they can move all that a little bit and leave a little bit more buffer. Because that's the part that actually affects the people, the neighbors the most.
And what you're saying is move the whole operation deeper into the property.
But yeah, I would think so. It would have
Or
to.
we could craft a condition that there's a certain distance you want him to stay away from this property line here. I can put that in there.
I can't tell the scale, to be honest. On page 34, where he shows trucks and or equipment. I'm not clear on the scale from the property line there. You see what I'm talking about? Well, you're not on page 34. Because you seem to have a lot of available space.
Here's 100 feet.
Where the future
Roughly.
warehouse is going to be.
Yeah, I
A lot
know.
of space, but
I
I don't know how the
know.
topography of the land.
I don't know either. And he's got a natural area back there. Is that conservation area or is that just you've chosen to make that natural area?
Mhm.
I chose to make
So-
a
Does
natural
the
area myself.
topography allow for it to be moved back
Yes, ma'am, it does.
so many more feet? The
Yeah, we
whole-
got plenty of room. What I done was I gave at least twice as much buffer as what the zoning ordinance required. But we've got 10 acres. We're really going to use about 4 acres of the property to do what we need to do. So we can configure and work with the planning department to get it suitable for the neighbors.
And I understand where you would want a straight way in and big equipment coming in, a smooth turn, a big enough arc to,
ma'am.
whoops, excuse me, to make that turn. I'm just looking at the far left where it butts up to the houses, and that's where you're showing your trucks and or equipment. Each square is 20 by 40 feet where you're like parking the trucks there, I guess, is what I'm understanding.
Yes, ma'am.
So that's why I'm just saying.
To a certain extent, we drew that based upon the county's restrictive covenants on the setbacks by giving it additional setbacks, but we have additional room. The natural area there that we drew in the center. we
Yeah,
can
but
do-
that's not helping your neighbors. That's the problem. The houses
No,
that
if we
are,
pull the area in and give them a bigger buffer, then it does help the neighbors. At least I think it does.
we're not having comment from the audience at this point. I'm sorry. I'm just looking at this, Ms. Boland, and looking to see if there's some way that the trucks and equipment could be parked more down and employee parking kind of back near where the future warehouse would be.
Right.
I'm just thinking that that would give the residents a good cushion that it's not near their house.
So are you proposing that we put in a condition tonight or that it goes back to the planning commission, back to the planning department to craft a wider buffer?
Mr. Hopkins, that would need to go back.
Either one is fine. If you want to give me direction as it moves forward, or if you want to bring it back with a new addition.
Well, it's in your district, Ms.
Well-
Bowen. I'll let you have the call on that.
Well, as an applicant, do you need Tom to look at this to decide if you can leave more
No, we got,
buffer or?
we got plenty of room. If we get postponed 30 days, I'm just gonna, no disrespect to the board or the county. I love this county. I've lived in it since 1989. I'm just gonna move the operation to someplace that's more suitable where people want it. There's plenty of room in 10 acres to make this work. Literally really is. I feel comfortable that I can work it out with the planning commission to make this thing work. As far as tractor and trailers go, you don't have to have a tractor and trailer. You
Well-
can use dump trucks to get them in there. As far as having the turnaround ratio, I stayed off of the back of the property with anticipation that maybe there could be some changes that needed to be made. So we're not snugged up next to the back. The building, to be honest, if the building is moved to another location on the property, there's no sound or noise or anything involved with the building. So we don't know when the building goes in, nor are we positive which size it is. It's a place to work on the trucks is what it is. And
Well,
it's not gonna be great.
We can't approve a conditional use permit if we don't know exactly what the layout of the project's gonna be. We can't say, oh, okay, you're just gonna move it away from the neighbors is what we're saying. So we are discussing with you, if you would like to take your plan and come back to us in 30 days, not that much time, and just try to can you pull that out, Mr. Hopkins, the drawing on page 34, I believe it is. There we go. Okay, where you have your, you want to pull it, let's see, that's kind of oriented a little different than, so where's Mosley 605 on here? There we go. Okay, so that's good. Okay. Yeah, that's great, Mr. Hopkins. Thank you.
Yeah.
Where you have this, you see the younger Mr. Morissette, the squares that you have, that's so close to the houses, what Mrs. Bowling and I are pointing out, that if that somehow could be moved from that area, maybe the employee parking as well
Yeah,
to the back of the property.
when originally designed here, we were just trying to make things work out with the flow of the traffic, but we left that natural area in the back there in that building, which we
You
could be
someday.
putting up right there.
Okay,
Because we have had an idea to have a place to park the trucks, but the entire idea was that a more increased size buffer may be required there. So we drew this with the anticipation of having to pull this stuff down in case something like this came up. So we're definitely willing to work with you guys.
okay.
If you
that's-
guys are wanting to give us time to do it,
We're willing.
I don't think that's something that is time of the essences for us. So I think you said maybe,
No, actually it is. Our financing.
yeah, I'm saying it
our
is of the
financing
essence.
goes away if we don't move forward now. A 30-day deferral.
So the other
will
option.
kill
I
You
it.
would miss
think
your
they brought-
financing with the 30 days.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. So the other option I think you brought forward was a condition based on you guys saying what the buffer should be, which we're more than willing to meet that buffer requirement and condition.
Mr. Hopkins, you want to give us some advice on this?
If you'd like to condition or give me direction on a condition to be crafted going forward, I'm more than happy to put one in there.
Madam Chair, I also have another comment.
Yes.
We have no condition in here regarding this building. And
I
as
know.
things have passed the Board of Supervisors, they've been adamant about, I mean, it could be an 8,000 square foot building. So I would also suggest a consideration of
Moving the
being,
building from the
Uh,
plan.
of making some kind of better commitment to the structure within the conditions. But again, I will just clearly state that I'm seriously worried about the safety concerns of the road. I'm just, I want to put that out there, but I can't get past the roads.
Right. Well, here's where I'm coming from. I want to protect the neighbors and I believe this is a green business. And that's why I'm looking at your plan and trying to figure out how to pull it away from the houses. Also, I want to know if there's, I'm not happy to hear that Luckstone trucks will having to come to the property. I mean, I was looking at this when I went to the property and looked at it this weekend. I was like, okay, this is okay, because they're gonna be on Chesterfield roads really quick. And we could say that you can't, you gotta come out and go to Chesterfield Road. You can't, there's one way out. But when I heard about the Luck trucks coming, that's a bit of a concern for me, for bringing the supplies to the site. Because I don't see where there's any way that you can avoid.
Well, he said they won't go down Mosley Road. They
Yeah,
gotta go
but the
all the way
other-
around, but they're still going to be, the neighbors are still going to hear the
That's, what I-
trucks going in
yeah,
and out.
I
Yes.
know. That's the thing that is a concern for me. And I know that the industrial property in the neighborhood, it's by right that they can come in and do it. That's my concerns, but I do think it's a fabulous business opportunity for Powhatan County. And we certainly need more commercial businesses. I'll grant you that. But there are concerns.
All right, we've been beating this for a little bit
Yeah, I
now.
know.
So if we're going to do a proposal, it would be, we will approve it if the following conditions can be added. One, that the buffer is increased and there is a
How much?
requirement-
Okay,
That's right. We got to decide how much buffer we want. How much he can afford to do and keep that entrance.
Well, I think he's going to have to work with Frank, but we have a condition that the buffers as of now will increase and move the parking and the storage area as far as can be moved away from the property lines. And then the second one is
Was a concern about
the building.
Building size.
So limiting the building to, what do you need, 4,000 square feet?
single story, I would take it. You're not parking trucks on a second story.
Yeah, I think that would probably be satisfactory.
he's going to have 6. Well, I'm not sure what he's going to have in the warehouse, but do you have an idea how big it's going to be?
The trucks have to be stored on the inside during the winter time.
Okay.
The truck's width
You'll have
is
6.
8 feet wide and they're approximately 40 feet long, 32 feet. But by the time you maneuver them in the building, you're probably 8 by 40. So you're,
And your goal is to have 6 trucks.
yes, ma'am. My goal actually is to have 9 trucks, but we only run 6 trucks
At a
on
time.
the road. I'm just telling you the truth.
Okay.
Is that you can load the trucks in advance, you can turn more loads. But we're talking about, the trucks are $400,000 a piece. We don't have that much money to do
It's
that.
way out in the future.
It's way out in the future. And it may not ever happen, but I'm just telling you the facts.
So just doing the math quickly in my head, that would equate to about a 4,000 square foot warehouse you would need.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'm making sure my math, I didn't do it on my phone. I'm just did that in my head. No guarantees,
Yeah, I
that's
understand.
right on the money there. Okay, any
I-
other?
I think Mr. Hall also had a concern about the timing of this. I don't know if he was going to make any comments regarding that, but you had issues with the timing on this.
Oh,
at
the time the
6:30
trucks are
a.m.
coming and going
Right.
from the property.
Yeah, that starting at 6:30 in the morning, that close to the neighborhood, neighbors.
That's loud.
I live off of 60. The lumber trucks start at 5. If it is a state highway, I don't think we can say, you're not going to be able to come until 7 or 8 when everyone else is moving down the highway early in the morning.
Well, we've got another one that's coming up that they start at 8 o'clock. That's what's.
And if someone mentioned they had farming, you're up early on farming. I mean,
Well, we can't talk in the
but
audience.
what my point is, I think that can be sort of a not so helpful requirement. I'd rather see the business be able to get in and get out and do what they want, because if you're living in other places, there's no constraint. I mean, as I said, 5 o'clock in the morning, my windows start rattling. So I just, you can live with it.
Mr. Hopkins, can we, I mean, so the only control we have of when their actual volumetric trucks leave to go to the Chesterfield direction. We don't have any control over the supply trucks coming in each day. And that's right now going to be 10 truckloads a day, which will obviously increase as the business grows.
My concern at 6:30 was the bells on the trucks.
The backup
backups,
alarms.
and also on the loaders.
Yeah, but OSHA's going to make you have those on.
Right.
Time
Okay.
constraints are perfectly acceptable condition.
Okay.
Shall they be consistent then? We have another one that we've already got here. Or 8.
If I may, on that one, before we get ahead of ourselves on that one, that condition is specifically to chipping activity, not
Okay.
village driving.
Right. On the volumetric trucks, can you load them the day before but not drive them off the property?
Yes, ma'am.
So you could have them ready, loaded with no having to do anything.
Yes.
Okay, so can you have a noise ordinance that no noise can come from the property at a certain time?
My only hesitation with that is
That's an ordinance. That's,
enforceability.
yeah,
I'm
And
not
how do
gonna
you
be out there
measure
at
it?
6
right. We
listening.
can't, I'm sorry, we can't take information from the audience. My apologies.
4 different neighbors that tried to log in after we told them
Oh, really? They couldn't get in?
they couldn't get in.
Not through the phone number?
They didn't get letters.
They did not get letters?
I didn't know those.
We have the list on here. The letters went out.
Bobby. That's a. Mr. Hopkins, I have real concerns about that. There's so many people here tonight that said they did not receive a letter.
I understand that.
Mr. Morse, Miss-
My neighbor's property.
are you, and what was the criteria, Mr. Hopkins, to the letters that were mailed out to the public? It was at adjacent properties or
Yes.
properties within, so
And we generally do a
that,
much
like a,
larger swath.
yeah.
And in your application tonight is the list of what was mailed out.
Yeah. it is.
Can we put up the list of who was mailed out to see if the people in the audience, their names are on this list?
Bear with me.
And Mr. Morissette, I'll be honest, if proper notification was not given to the neighbors, we legally cannot approve it.
No, understand.
So we're trying to work with you and be fair to everyone.
Yes, ma'am.
Because if proper notification wasn't given legally, we cannot vote on it, my understanding. I know, but you never know. We have a lot of people that said they did not get it. I know, I'm not saying you didn't mail them, I'm just concerned. Let's see what page that,
Concerned at somebody that's not here.
27.
They're at the
Get it.
very end. So
he just told me there are 4 neighbors that said, didn't even know anything
neighbors.
about it, didn't get the letter.
It's the guy across the street from me.
Matter of fact, when you be going head out. That's my house. Mine is right there beside.
Okay, it's kind of,
I didn't find it out the other day. And the afternoon.
okay, this is like getting out of control
It's
here. We
getting
need
out
to,
of
okay. Mr. Hopkins, I cannot read that myself. If you, could you just read out the names for the public?
Gamzell and Heather S. Kunka, John B. Sperry trustee, Owen Parker and Stephanie J. Smith, Latin Investment Properties, Celeste Jones Gray, Cora L. Henderson, Atal, CO Wallace and Jones. Tony Anderson, Jackson, Jackson P. Getz, Wallace O. Dorsey Jr., Richard W. Lipford, Emerson J. Margaret O. Hughes, Robert W. Sandra P. Lipford, Edward and Tammy L. Young, Stephen, Sarah Robinson, Sheila Stockton, Lily Mae Church, Terry Lawrence, and Dolores Ann Sorensen, Richard Dan Corbett, Nicholas A. Atkins, Richard Corbett, Stephen Randy Sheets, Louis Johnson,
No, no, no.
care of Keith J. Johnson, Clifton D. Howell, Harry N. Yvonne E. Howell, and Charles E. Deanna Reed, mailed out on the 21st of October.
Okay. I'm sorry, what?
But again, the requirement is for adjacent parcel owners and we always go larger.
Okay,
And I feel terrible. I mean, this is something that we focus on. I don't know how you didn't get a letter, to be quite honest with you.
okay, you're not an adjacent property.
So we might, again, adjacent property owner is a requirement and we will draw a 300 to 500 radius.
Okay, so anyone that is an adjacent property owner here tonight not receive a letter. You're an adjacent property owner? And did he read your name on that list?
Yes.
I saw my name on the bottom of one.
Yeah.
Your name is on the list and you,
Clifton Howell. I can see him still up there.
Yep. You were on there.
now is this their, do you receive your mail at your house or is it a post office box? You-
Get it the same post office. I've got a box, mailbox.
So are you at
in my
19?
driveway.
Oh, that's, I'm at your, that's what I'm asking. you. At your property, you have a mailbox to your house?
That property, it's right there next to where the railroad crosses.
Okay, all right. So I'm trying to understand it. Okay, so Mr. Hopkins, what are we gonna do when we have people here that are adjacent property owners that say they did not get legal notification?
So again, that is absolutely your call. I could tell you that we sent these letters out. They went to these addresses. That's where they were addressed to. If. What's that? Newspaper, yeah, I mean, but again, these letters went out to these addresses. These are the property addresses that are in. the
And what
parcels.
date were they mailed out?
October 21st, certified.
Certified.
Correct. I mean, we have Stacy look at it, send it out, that this is the date that we sent this out on. I have both
Well, I found out about it last
this
night.
one and mine, same day. Soil Solutions is on there. So,
Okay, it's in your district. How, I mean, I hate to punt the ball back to you. What's your feeling on this?
My concern is, I mean, I feel like it should be deferred until we get all this straight, but he says that he won't be able to get the money. And then Powhatan County stands to lose a lot of revenue because of it. So, I think can we vote on it?
And let it move on to the Board of
make a motion?
Supervisors?
Yeah.
I
make a
mean, I
motion.
meant vote on deferring it till we get it all straight, but then he says he can't do it.
No, I mean, we're discussing what we want to make the motion to
Right.
be.
Right.
So we have an option of making the motion to defer it for 30 days. You know, the finance unfortunately is not our concern because we're concerned with land use.
Right.
I don't mean to sound heartless, but I mean, that's the reality. Okay, so, or do we want to defer it because we have concerns that adjacent property owners did not get their legal notification?
I don't want that to be the phrasing of that because that legal notice went out. Those letters went out.
Darlene, are you thinking of making a motion that then includes
I'm
the
just seeing if anybody
Buffer,
here.
the increased buffer?
but we need to know exactly how much buffer. We can't go to him and say, you got to increase it another 100 feet. We need to know how much buffer. It's at 65 now. I'm trying to picture how much more would be reasonable.
Okay, so it would be a buffer.
I think 100 would be probably would cramp too much. So maybe 75.
Another 10 feet. Yeah. And the other issue is limiting the size of the possible
warehouse.
build warehouse to 4,000 square feet.
Yep. And then what about the time restraint? As far as trucks going in and out?
Well, that can be a condition.
How does that affect you all? Time in the trucks?
Well,
If you can load the day before, during
if we can
reasonable
load the day
hours,
before.
so you're not
Mm,
loading
I
first
mean,
thing in
we're
the morning.
fine, but the way the concrete business works, in the summertime, when it's super hot, you gotta get the trucks out
Right.
early so that they can deliver the concrete before the sun starts to cook the concrete. So really, the time constraints that we put in there is pretty much it. But when you factor in that the trucks are already loaded before, just starting up the trucks, driving them out already preloaded, it's a pretty small amount of noise as far as all things go. We need to be able to do that in order to.
But so we're
successful.
asking you what time would be your latest that you could let your
Well,
trucks go?
We said 6:30, I think is what we had implied. We would like for it to be 5:30, but we made a concession to say 6:30.
All right, I'll just make a motion that we
What-
vote on
what have you
this
got?
according to him widening the buffer to 75 feet. And making the warehouse, how many feet?
4,000.
4,000, is that enough square footage?
They said it was.
Minimum square footage, that, make a motion, we go ahead and vote on this.
Leave the time at 6:30 AM.
It looks like you have to.
Yeah, okay.
Regardless of the neighbors that were notified, I understand the letters went out, but that is an issue. They would be here to speak.
Are they adjacent?
Guys here to tell you,
Do you know what distance from the property they live?
adjacent.
They are adjacent. Okay.
Hmm.
Ma'am, I'm an adjacent property owner calling in from Georgia to speak.
Did you see their names on that list?
I don't know who they are.
Was it one of the letters that came in here that she was building a house on? Parcel?
You know where I stand. Right now, my vote's not gonna change.
I know, this is, we need to wrap it up. We need to make a decision and vote and move on. Okay. So deferment is not gonna work because that's not gonna be, so I think we just let's just put out, make a
Gotta vote.
motion and look for a second and then
I'll make a motion, we go ahead and vote
as written.
as
and the-
written. And with the
With the two
improved-
adjustments that
two-
you've
two
made.
Adjustments
I
to be
second
made.
it. I'll second it.
Okay, roll call, Mr. Hopkins.
Ms. Pendergast,
No.
Dr. Brown,
Yes.
Ms. Hurt,
No.
Mr. Hall,
No.
Ms. Bullen.
Yes.
Thank you. And our, like I said, this will go on to the Board of Supervisors. They have the ultimate final say, which will come up the end of the month.
Thank you for all your time.
Thank you. Okay, moving on. Sorry that we had.
Maybe tell these people.
I have to do this, right?
Oh, and everyone that was here this evening, you know, and applicants, you will present to the Board of Supervisors. And the public that are here tonight know that you certainly can attend the Board of Supervisors
Absolutely.
meeting and make known what the situation is.
And make sure your neighbors know. Y'all
Yes.
be on the lookout. Make sure your neighbors know.
That's the only way these two guys are here.
And I do apologize.
Don't I
Okay,
have
we
make
need
a-
to move on.
don't I have to
Sorry.
Make a motion?
We,
Oh, I didn't read it.
oh, were we okay with that, Mr. Hopkins?
The motion that you had.
As written.
She said the motion as written with
With the
those
two
adjustments. Did you get those recorded?
Okay.
Yeah, and we took a
Okay.
roll call vote. We're good.
Okay.
We're moving on, and it's also in your district. Okay, so we're moving on to conditional use permit tonight, 2207 Soil Solutions.
Excuse me one second. Can I speak?
Well,
Please?
we've already voted on your conditional use permit, Mr. Morissette. Okay, moving on to 2207 conditional use permit. Soil Solutions, is the applicant here tonight to make a presentation? Yes, you ready? Come forward, please.
My name is Tim Kinney, owner of Soil Solutions, also with Michael Featherston. Our conditional use permit is to have the ability to chip and process wood as it comes in off of, it could be a different types of job sites, different, when a house is being built, product would come in and then we would chip it. We have a couple of different ways that we want to move that product through the process. One of it is the rail line. So we do have a rail line on our property. The rail line is operable. The only thing that we have to do is we have to do a couple of items, replace 102 railroad ties. And then we'll get it re-inspected and there's a boot on the rail line as we speak. So what that's gonna do is that's gonna cut down the traffic that's gonna go across, the roads as a whole. The percentage is unknown at this time, just simply based on we're trying to find distributors that's gonna take it on the rail line or off the rail line for us. The process that we're gonna use to chip is gonna be a wood chipper and a grinder. And then we'll have that away from the property owners. So that's going to be, if you look at the map, there's a rail line with a building, and we're gonna be to the right of that as if you're coming into the property. Our ultimate goal is to be, neighbor friendly. I live in the community myself, pay taxes myself, but most importantly, I know how important it is to have a business here in Powhatan. Because it's ultimately, if we don't develop that plan, taxpayers are gonna end up paying for it. And me as a homeowner in here, I want to see me as a business owner paying for the taxes versus me as a homeowner. So our ultimate goal is to be as friendly as possible. We've tried to make as many friendly moves through this process. We put a substantial buffer in there for our neighbors on the left-hand side. The person on the right-hand side of us also knows what's going on. We've talked to all of them. I would say my shortcoming would be across the rail line, just because we're not doing a whole lot over there. I didn't get a chance to talk to those neighbors, myself or Michael. But we're here, hopefully make a decision, and we're excited to do so.
Okay, anything else on the applicant? All right,
Go ahead.
you're good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, we need to open a public hearing on this for the public to speak.
Sounds good. I appreciate it.
So if anyone wishing to comment, please come forward and state your name and address.
My name is Joyce Ferris. I live at 2055 Mosley Road, directly behind his proposed business. My husband's property abuts the railroad, and our home is in the very back of that property. So I'm definitely concerned about noise. With a chipper and a grinder, it just sounds really loud. So we're the neighbors that we didn't get a chance to talk to. Environmental, there's a creek that runs, I'm sure you're aware, there's a creek that runs through our property under the railroad into that property. So I'm concerned about environmental issues that may happen. Something else, hold on. I feel like with these two businesses that we're helping Chesterfield. This is all, Magnolia Grange, it's all subdivisions that are being built in Chesterfield that are going to bring their stumps or whatever, trees or whatever, to be chipped, and they need the concrete to build the homes and the stores to accommodate Chesterfield. So I believe that these businesses will be supported by what is happening in Chesterfield. And I know they would pay taxes, and that's always a good thing. But that's what I'm hearing, but that's what I believe that is. I know Mr. Morissette did mention Magnolia Grange. So back to the roads. I guess that applies more to Mr. Morissette, so I'll let that go. Mosley Road, I know you've been down there. If you went to the end of Mosley Road, and I wish Mr. Howell was here because could answer this. You go to the end of Mosley Road and you take that left on Genito, and then Mosley Road continues into Chesterfield. I don't see how in the world a truck, if I'm going up to Mosley Road and I want to take that left on Genito, how a truck is going to turn onto Mosley Road to deliver anything. I believe I would literally have to back up to make room for a truck to turn on that very narrow road. So I guess that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else, please come forward.
Bernard Elam, 2140 Genito Road. I'm not directly adjacent, but from my tree stand in the back of my property, I can see where he wants to put all of this. Third generation Powhatan resident. Ms. Bolin knows my family very well. My grandfather was a dairy farmer, similar to her dad. My dad was a veterinarian in the county for 40+ years. I've been over to Miss Boland's property, working on her cows as a kid. Have a ton of love for this county. Love it. The reason I wanted to purchase property and stay in Powhatan County was for the rural atmosphere. But this certainly isn't going to help. All right. So when this property was proposed by private developers as an industrial park in 2005, the proposal was dropped due to the $1 million cost associated with road improvements. So what does that cost today? But certainly there's going to need to be some extensive improvements to the Genito Dorset intersection that has no turn lanes, no stoplight, and with 50 to 100 dump trucks going in there, you're going to have tremendous issues. There was a major accident there just a few weeks ago with what else? A dump truck. Head-on smashing collision. So this is what you're going to get with no turn lanes. They come flying around the church property and there's nowhere to go. There's no turn lanes. You're going to come into the back of one of these dump trucks and someone's going to get killed. As far as a cost benefit analysis, how's the county going to make any money from this business? County does not have a gross receipts business tax, and they just exempted civil cultural activity equipment from personal property taxes. I've been playing phone tag with Jamie Timberlake to see whether this would relate to this proposed equipment that they're putting in. But as far as I can tell, it exempts all this tub grinder equipment from taxation. And that was just passed. I already talked about my favorite activity is hunting, but how's this visual buffer? So that's what's being proposed, a visual buffer going to adequately screen the noise from a 400 horsepower diesel tub grinder from my property as I'm trying to enjoy my A10 residential investment in this county. I love deer hunting, and here we are less than a week away from deer season. And what do? You're listening for the deer moving in the woods. That's going to be extremely hard to do with not just one, but possibly multiple tub grinders. Because if they ramp this up to where they're talking about going, you could potentially look at 2 or 3 of these tub grinders going at one time. There's no way it's going inside. It's going to be outside. And I'm telling you, it's right across the gully from my tree stand. Poof. There goes any hunting for me. And as far as noise, I'm hoping that you all as a group will go over to Yardworks and promise me to spend a good 30 minutes right up next to one of those tub grinders to see what kind of noise you're talking about. Because I'm pretty sure that sound and the smell of diesel fuel were going to excite you tremendously, because it's not really exciting me. Mr. Kunka and I spearheaded a petition during the last proposed development of this into a county-owned industrial park. So that was in 2009. And while inconvenient, we went out and got petitions. And we got all of the neighbors, the ones that were notified and the ones that weren't, to sign this petition. So as I've already conveyed to Ms. Boland, I'm ready to do it again. I already talked to Mr. Kunka today, and we're going to get petitions, get them signed. Might not have them for you tonight, but we'll certainly have them for the Board of Supervisors. Because I'm sure, like similar to last time, overwhelming negative response from taxpayers, voters, landowners against that proposal, and they'll certainly be against this. And finally, Owen Walker said that this area was earmarked for industrial development approximately 50 or 60 years ago. But the decision was made by previous planning commissions and Board of Supervisors to rezone the surrounding property in that area as A10,
Sir,
A10 residential.
I hate to interrupt you, but it's a 3-minute limit.
I'm almost done.
So if you could wrap
Okay.
it up, I would appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am. The facts are that plans change over time. House plans change, life plans change, zoning plans changed. So I asked him, then why, Owen, did you guys let this get zoned residential? If you always wanted to keep it industrial, then why did you put residential properties in there? So the truth is, plans change. And that's what I asked him, and he had no answer.
Thank you. Thank you for your
Thank you very
comments.
much.
Appreciate it. Anyone else come forward? And I remind you, I'm sorry, it is 3-minute limit.
May I speak remotely, ma'am?
My name's James Reynolds. I've got a piece of property that adjoins the property that he's trying to get a conditional use permit on. Now,
And what is your address, sir, in Powhatan?
it's 2027 Mosley Road. This particular piece of property that he's trying to get a conditional use permit on is long, narrow. It's cut almost directly in half by the Southern Railroad. Now, I'm on the north side of the railroad tracks. That piece of property has never been used for any commercial activity. They timbered it probably 30 years ago. The property that I believe he wants to get the conditional use permit on has been in some type of commercial use for 30, 40 years that I'm aware of. What I would like to have clarified here is that the property, and I don't understand why it's one piece and wasn't cut in two pieces when the railroad went through the middle of it, but the property that's on the north side of the railroad tracks not be allowed to have a conditional use permit to operate a grinder. What he does on the south side of the railroad tracks where it's been commercial, I don't have a problem with it.
Thank you. Anyone else? One on Zoom.
That's Mr. Hunka.
Oh,
I'm Deborah Reynolds. and
please,
I'm
in the mic, please.
I'm sorry. My name is Deborah Reynolds. That's my husband. We own the property at 2027 Mosley Road. And I'm going to say the same thing he does. What goes on the south side of the railroad tracks, I really don't have a problem with. That's been commercial. On the north side of the railroad tracks, I would like to see an amendment to whatever proposal's been made, that be excluded from the conditional use permit.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Anyone else? Anyone at home?
Yes, we have one at home.
Hello, welcome.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, this is James Conka. I live at 1922 Mosley Road. I apologize. I spent over a half hour trying to get into this meeting. The links on the letter and the links updated on the website were not good. And Mr. Wally Dorsey, I think, talked to your IT guy and got me in. Thank you. I have very little notice about this operation. I heard from Mr. Elam, and I want to make clear that a visual buffer is not going to be the issue for this operation. It is going to be a noise buffer. We used to have a sawmill operation at the corner of Bradbury Road and Mosley. And this is going 20 or 30 years ago. And I used to wake up every morning to the drone of their wood chipper processing the waste from the sawmill. And that would shut off at the end of the day when they went home. But that is a tiny, tiny chipper compared to the ones that this applicant is proposing. If you go on YouTube and you look at tub grinders, these are 600 to 1,000 horsepower engine-driven equipment fed by front-end loaders with backup alarms beeping. You are going to hear this operation for a mile, regardless of what you do. The line of sight from where this operation is planning on being up near the tracks is a direct line of sight to my property. I'm about 1/2 to 3/4 of a mile away. I can tell you without a doubt that I'm going to hear this operation every day, despite all of their efforts to try to contain that sound. That's all the input I have on this. I pray that you don't put this operation in place, and I pray that you don't put the operation of the concrete plant in place in an area that was designated a crossroads, which is supposed to preserve rural character and serve the local residents. So thank you for your time in this matter.
Thank you. I'm sorry you had difficulty. Anyone else? Are we good? Okay, it's time for our discussion.
We'll close the public comment.
Well,
period.
yes, we're having a crazy night tonight. I will close the public comment period and we'll move on to our discussion and questions. My apologies.
Okay, being in my district, I would like to start again. Unlike the last proposal where there was pretty much proof that the county was going to benefit financially from the trucks and everything, I'm really not seeing a whole lot of benefit to the county on this. I personally know the Reynolds, Mr. Ferris, and Mr. Elam. And I do have concerns how this will affect them. So not only on the north side of the railroad tracks, but I'm concerned about the south side of the railroad tracks too, because of Mr. Elam. And anyway, I don't feel like that I would be in favor of knowing that I voted on something that's going to affect them with all of that noise from here on out. Even though that used to be a lumber yard, it was a long time ago. Before, there were a lot of residents that lived around before these 10-acre lots like Mr. Elam lives on, before those people moved in there. So anyway, that's the way I feel.
Thank you. Mr. Hall?
I would like to know from the applicant what their plans are on the north side of the railroad tracks.
So at this time, we don't really have a plan to go across the route. What we're trying to do is contain the noise on the south side. Changes your noise. We have to start a diesel.
And maybe this is an odd question for you. How many decibels Do you have information on that?
Not have a decibel rating on that. I guess it depends on.
Is that microphone on?
Did you put that in your report? Because I don't. Oh, that mic's not on. Oh dear.
There it is. Oh, another red light.
You would think it was Halloween
Yeah.
tonight.
Everything seems to be happening. So I do not have a decibel rating on
And it's called a horizontal grader,
that. Grinder.
grinder. I'm sorry, that's what I meant to say.
No, you're fine.
All right, let me just check something here. Continue on. Anything else, Mr. Hall? I'm just checking that out.
Is there any chance of proffering that a condition that nothing would be happening on the north side? I don't know how we would properly phrase that.
Can do that.
On the
We
north side
can
of the
or
track?
can't.
Yeah, you're saying the grinding operation, the grinding itself to restrict that on the north side?
Mhm.
Yeah, no issues at all with that. It would actually be more trouble to grind on that side.
That's all.
This is not an electric angle grinder.
No,
Okay,
no.
So Madam Chair,
yes, please. I was
So-
just trying to.
I too am worried about the noise of this. My husband has worked with this equipment in the past.
Okay,
And, you know, I don't think it makes a difference whether it's north or south. There's people on both sides. And so we can all say, let's, you know, not do it here, let's not do it there. Somewhere, somebody's affected by this. And you are going to hear this. I'm not sure why in the proffered conditions, we're going to allow him to not run between midnight and 8 AM, which means he could run it till midnight. I think that would definitely need to be adjusted. Not sure our thought process there. But this, if I kind of look at the spacing that we have on these parcels,
it's hard to see.
you're talking about 2 football fields wide. This is a long, narrow piece of property. It's only about 2 football fields wide. So if you think about that and how the noise, that is not a lot of buffer for noise. And this is a residential area. So, you know, the noise for me, I would not want to live next to this. And, you know, so again, I hate this because there's great businesses that we continue to bring. We just continue to try to put these businesses in the wrong locations. There's lots of commercial property in Powhatan, and we continue to pick and try to put these things into rural residential areas. And I also do worry about the safety of the roads because most of these roads don't have any shoulders. And these trucks bringing in stumps and things that are going to be ground are not small trucks. So again, and I get that there's trucks running on all these roads and we can't control that. But I think as a planning commission, we have to take the safety and the roads into consideration to not make the problems worse. So that's where I am on this.
All right, so
Thank
let me
you. Dr. Brown.
understand your point. So your point is that you're still not, if we were to limit his operations from 8 to 6, you still wouldn't be in support.
Correct.
So it's not a matter.
But sending it to the Board of Supervisors without that restriction to me would also be silly. I mean, I think we should consider an endpoint on it.
Okay.
To
Yeah.
let them know that, okay, maybe we're still against
Because
this, but we
wedding
would recommend.
venues, we make wedding venues shut down.
We're very
well
strict.
Before midnight.
We're
so,
very strict
yeah.
on wedding venues.
Yes.
Okay, I was just clarifying where you were going
Yeah.
with that.
Dr. Brown, do you have anything to add?
No, I think all the points of my concerns or really my support have been covered.
I'm just confused on the orientation of the property, to be totally honest, and looking at the hand drawing and so forth. So exactly what road are these trucks coming out or coming in on? Is it, orient me to where that is, Mr. Hopkins or the applicant? someone.
Genito.
What?
Genito.
So it's right on Genito.
That's correct. So it comes out on Genito. So we have a,
I'm trying to picture, because I saw the sign and I rode down there and I was trying to figure it out and I was really confused. I'm sorry.
no, that's okay. It's the old NB Goodwin
So it's
sawmill
old
site.
Goodwin lumber site.
That's correct. Yeah.
I used to live in Brander Mill.
Okay.
So I'm very familiar with Goodwin.
Yeah, so we just took over that site. And then,
Okay,
you
so
know, we're
you-
just trying to create, you know, a site that, you know, it's a recycling process you know, we're trying to, you know, stay in Powhatan, bring business to Powhatan.
So what is left on the property of the old Goodwin site?
Pretty much the roads, all the infrastructure, everything that existed then still exists today. And by the picture, you'll see it.
I couldn't, it was hard for me to tell looking online and at the packet.
Understood. So we created, because we were talking to the people on the left-hand side. One of the things that they asked us to do was pull the driveway to the right-hand side because that's the Reed property and nobody lives on the right-hand side. So we went and created a road there to cut the traffic and the noise by 50% from the left-hand side where the residents are living. And then we proposed to go all the way in the back right-hand corner to do the grinding where there is no residence. So our ultimate goal is to, you know, think about the residents, think about the noise, create a buffer. We're gonna do an 8-foot buffer with a 500-foot, you know, 8-foot high with a 500-foot distance from the nearest house to do that grinding to eliminate. I don't want to say it's gonna 100% eliminate it, but it's gonna reduce it.
You're talking about visually eliminate it.
No, noise wise too, because the buffer that we're gonna use is gonna be a berm. So it's gonna be, instead of a fence, we're asking to do a berm, an 8-foot berm. And then
Well, that's
create,
the problem. You haven't, that's,
So
That's
we've
not
had
a-
some conversations about basically meeting the definition. And so I settled on the fact that it's gonna need a type C buffer around the entire property regardless, which would put it at either a 65-foot tree buffer or a 35-foot with a fence around the entire property. So in meeting the definition, it tells you can have a fence, a brick wall, or a visual barrier. And so I figured if the entire property is enraptured in a type C buffer, then technically it would meet that definition. Now, again, we can add conditions further to this.
but we're trying to figure out a sound buffer.
I understand that. The distance requirement from a residence was in there as one. But again, I thought this would come up and I wanted us to have some level of discussion about how this would be accomplished. Because one of the things that we talked about is in this space here, they'd like to put the wood piles and have the chipper essentially move laterally. So it's going to need to be contained in some sort of space. So in order to contain it, you could put a berm up as something that could reduce noise as a condition. But the other thing is, you could put it in a building, but it's going to trigger a lot of fire regulations. So there's a
The
preference
fire,
not to have that.
I seriously doubt the fire department's gonna let you put it in the building,
Right.
especially on a hot day. It's too much of a risk of
yeah, it's too much.
of combustion. Okay, I'll be honest, my concern is the sound. And if you think about when you build highways, you know, you drop them down and you have the berm like that to keep the sound contained. So I mean, you know, the way that I see being an old physics teacher that I am, to be honest, that to mitigate the sound, it has to be a pretty substantial land berm to absorb the sound. I mean, you know, that's just the reality of it. And I did not see that in here clearly delineated from my understanding, sorry, of the berm.
Sure.
I mean, I just didn't see the sound mitigation in here. And I understand it was originally the old, you know, lumber mill and so forth. And I remember that well way back then when I was young. But That's honestly my concern. And I don't know, Mr. Hopkins, if you want to address that, but the buffers to me will not mitigate the sound.
Okay.
In
So
my
again,
opinion. Like I said, I'm not an expert, but just my opinion.
that is certainly a condition that can be added.
Ms. Bowling, do you have?
No, I'm concerned with the sound and other things. Like.
The
Mr. Elam likes
reality
to-
with the traffic in Powhatan County, every single road is gonna be a problem with trucks and a problem with the volume of traffic, and we're never gonna build anything if we always fall back as that is the mitigating problem. So we gotta try to work with that and do the best we can with it. I like dumping stuff into Chesterfield as soon as possible, just personally. It's my thought. It's kind of bad. But when I look at this, honestly, I just can't imagine not having the sound mitigated for the residents living around it. That's my really big concern. And I tried to find the decibels of that type of grinder and I couldn't find it online at that brief time I was trying to search. And that was one of my notes. I was hoping you could tell me the decibels because I know like what a jet plane sounds like and the decibels of that I could think about. So any other input, comments, concerns? What direction, Ms. Boland, it's in your district, would you like to go with?
Wait.
Okay.
Back up. So are you saying one of the conditions you will add is to put that berm in?
Sure,
But
we can do that.
we need to ask the applicant.
So again, it's not a rezoning. He doesn't have to proffer it.
Right, I know.
We can condition it. So if we'd
I know
like
we
to
can
have
condition it.
that around it, then we can do that.
All right,
How tall?
So with applicants already talked about 8 feet, if that's adequate for you.
I think we need-
Is this thing on?
Yeah.
Yep.
As far as the noise goes, I understand the noise. Part of the plan is to shred the wood first. So that's a completely different piece of equipment before it gets grinded. So it's a smaller grinder and a big grinder, saying 600 to 1,000 horsepower grinders. That's up there. That's a lot of money, a lot of diesel fuel. Our proposal in long-term would be shred the wood, then grind it. It's an easier process, it's less noise, it's a low-speed grinder or a shredder that runs at a low RPM. Probably will be electric, not even diesel. They're cheaper, they last longer. And if you can go back to the proposed site where we'll be doing the work. So where this building sits, can you scroll out just a little bit? There you go. So where that building sits, from there to this other clearing that you see over here on the right-hand corner, come back to your right. Keep coming, no, you're good on the depth. Just come to your right where the clearing is over here at the bottom right corner. There you go. There's
There?
about, yeah, there's about a 40 or a 50-foot change in elevation there. So very easily, we can go in and go back up to the grinding spot. Yep, we could actually carve an area out in a nice kind of semicircle. to
Like a
get-
bowl?
Correct, to get, there's some stuff that's got to happen to make that happen, but if you can get that grinder down into a bottom and then take some of that dirt and bring it to the outsides and make the berm, we can make the berm as high as we need to.
Yeah,
cut the
I mean, I'm
noise
just
down.
thinking about, highways that are built, that's the way
No, you're
they
correct, and
abate
that's exactly, when you
sound.
said it, that's
In
exactly
highways, it's down below and the
Yes, ma'am.
sound will stay down.
correct. And then
Okay.
you see your road down in the bottom, you see slopes that go up the side, and then a lot of times they have a wall that goes beside it, 20, 30 foot tall. But you can put that piece in the area there. There's enough topo there, enough fall to where you could actually carve a section out and put that grinder shredder in that area to where it's low, actually below the ground, and bring your sides up higher to keep the noise contained. I do not have a decibel. Obviously with technology, things have changed. So we're not talking 20 years, 30 years ago.
Yeah, I know.
Things have changed, and that the shredder, which would be the first process, is a very low It's not even a grinding noise. It's a shredder and essentially takes the wood and pulls it apart. It doesn't grind it or chip it. That would be the later process, and that's a much smaller grinder. You're talking like 150 to 350 horsepower grinder at that point, which
Well,
is lower than
horsepower
that.
won't tell me the decibel
Well,
level. That's.
more horsepower, simple, more
I know,
horsepower,
I
more
know, but
noise.
it doesn't tell me that. Okay, but you're willing that we can put in the conditional use permit that this will be sound abatement down?
Yes. I'm okay with that.
So Madam
Ms.
Chair, I have
Vaughn?
another, oh, sorry.
Wait, let's get this berm set up.
Yeah, let's.
So it's going to be a semicircle of a berm.
Yeah, so we can recess the shredder and the grinder to a certain depth, right? So if you're saying you would like to see 8 foot, we can do 8 foot. If you'd like to see 12 foot, we can do 12 foot. Because there's plenty of slope.
Because you're saying the way it slopes so the truck could come in like that and you, in essence,
Create a natural wall.
natural wall
We can
around
go as
it.
much as
And that
probably
protects the sound.
Yeah, so if you're looking for a certain depth, we can go that depth.
Well, I can't do the calculations because I don't know the decibels, but
Understood.
I think 8 feet is not going to be enough.
yeah.
Okay,
Okay, so if you can move it up to 12, that I'm feeling better, but I do think the concerns of neighbors of noise is reasonable. And next time we get one of those, let's do a little bit more research on that before it comes to us.
Sure.
Okay. But I do think adding the condition of a berm would be appropriate. Okay, now I'm done.
I
Go
know,
ahead.
it's not
And I
exactly-
wanted to, I'm sorry, Madam.
No, go ahead. I'm
I
sorry.
wanted to add to the condition being that any of that equipment would continue because putting one there and the next one they get or potentially grow.
No,
would
that's what I
go-
was gonna, I
right.
totally
So
agree. with
that
you.
wording needs to
All
ensure
Equipment.
that it would always be that way. That still does not change this for me, but the wording of that needs to be correct if it does get approved.
Yes. You understand what we're saying? That, so if you expect, all equipment has to be in that sound
All
abatement.
grinding.
yeah, I was just
Grinding,
gonna say, because I
shredding,
need to be specific on that.
Yeah, all grinding, shredding
and
equipment, because
grinding.
that's your noisy equipment.
Correct.
Has to be in a minimum berm 12 feet. How does that sound? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And the shredder reduces that noise by almost 75%.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get rid of the sound for the neighbors.
Understood.
Because I wouldn't want to wake up hearing that. My dog would be going nuts.
Understood.
Okay, are we good?
I'm good.
Anything else we need to add? Ms. Boland, would you like to make the,
Motion,
yes, ma'am?
make the motion according to how I feel.
Well, no,
The options here, approve, deny, or defer. So we ready to make that motion?
Yeah, just read it as approved and we'll vote the other way, but please
Okay.
add the berm part in. with
but
the
no,
addi-
if she's gonna make a motion to deny it, the
Okay.
berm would not be in it.
Okay, got it.
That's what I'm saying. I was gonna make a motion to deny it.
All right.
Is that what I do? So I don't say anything
So,
about a
Mr.
berm.
Hopkins, if that is the case, how will the Board of Supervisors know our discussion of the addition of a berm for sound abatement?
So I think I could just add it regardless.
And the ending time.
And still, and as a denial?
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna
Yeah,
go with whatever your
okay.
recommendation is.
That's fine.
I'm
But I'm
sorry as
gonna
I can
add
be.
these
I just don't have enough information and there are too many people that I know here that it's going to affect. And there's just no way I can.
Okay,
So I'm
that's
gonna read
fine.
this
No,
over.
Ms.
Okay,
Boland, that's fine.
In accordance with section 83-123 F4, the Powhatan County zoning ordinance and public necessity, convenience, general welfare, and good zoning practice, the Planning Commission recommends denial of the request submitted by Soil Solutions LLC to permit a wood and stump recycling business on tax map 53-101B 2040 Genito Road, subject to the conditions presented in this report.
Ms. Pendergast.
Well, wait a minute, don't we need to
Give me a
add
second.
addition about what we said for the conditional?
That's not part of her motion, though.
Okay, that's fine.
Second,
Yeah, she needs a second.
second.
Ms. Pendergast.
I agree with the denial.
Dr. Brown,
I'm a nay on the denial. I think we could work with them.
Ms. Hurt,
Nay on the denial. I
Mr.
think we
Hall.
can work with it.
Nay with the denial.
Ms. Boland.
Yes, with the denial.
Motion
The motion
fails.
fails. But we need to make sure the Board of Supervisors understands about the berm thing.
You can,
So
we can make another motion to.
Yes, we can.
can't make another motion now because that was a motion to deny. which you
Okay,
voted
I
no.
think we need to make another motion. Okay, I would like to make a motion that we approve, et cetera, et cetera. I won't read all that
As
again.
stated.
As stated,
Mhm.
with additional conditional use permit of a minimum 12-foot berm encasing, how am I saying this the correct way? Encasing
Grinding and shredding.
the grinding and shredding equipment.
Mhm.
Okay, so that it's below grade. Want to make that perfectly clear that it's below grade.
Got it.
Okay? Does that make sense, Mr. Hall, to
Mhm.
you? Do I have a second?
What about the time?
And the time,
Oh.
I'm gonna fix the time.
Okay.
regardless.
You're gonna fix the
It
time.
Has to be fixed.
Well, we better put it because it's not in
Would you
the
like it to be what time?
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock.
Don't you think, Mr. Hall?
I agree.
Yes, 8 to 6.
Mhm.
Yep. Please correct that. Are we good to go? And I made the motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Roll call?
Ms. Pendergast,
No.
Dr. Brown,
Yay.
Ms. Hurt,
Yay.
Mr. Hall,
Yay.
Ms. Boland.
No.
Okay, it'll go on to the Board of Supervisors and we'll see how those chips fall. Okay, that was a joke, see? Ha, ha, ha. I have a sense of humor after sitting up here. My butt's getting tired since 6 o'clock. We're not done.
No,
We're not done. No, 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 you guys are done. We're not done. Sorry. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen of the Planning Commission, we have new business tonight. Okay? And would you please present that to, oh, I'm sorry you've had to wait so
So
long.
long.
It's okay.
My
Next time I'll tell
apologies.
Frank, we gotta go first.
You
No, it's
should have,
okay.
I know, but it just doesn't work that way in
I
Roberts.
know, I know. it's
Sorry.
okay. Thank you so much for allowing us to be on the agenda. My name is Rachel Henley. I'm the Powhatan Agriculture Extension Agent. I'm downstairs. And with me tonight online from Blacksburg is Dr. Susan Chen, who is faculty at Virginia Tech, who has overseen this project that Powhatan participated in with Virginia Cooperative Extension. As a data science project, and we involved Powhatan County departments with Mr. Frank Hopkins with planning and zoning, economic development, GIS, Commissioner Revenue, and then also Monacan Soil and Water Conservation District, and Powhatan Farm Bureau, along with my office. So it was a 10 or 11 week program, and I will let the wonderful ladies over there let Susan and Samantha present what they came up with.
Thank you very much, Rachel. Can everybody hear me?
You're muted.
Can't hear you, Susan.
So I don't think I'm muted.
You're good.
You're good
We can
now,
hear you.
Susan.
Okay, all
My
right, great.
apologies that you've had to wait so long tonight. It was a unusual evening.
It's a very educational experience for both myself and the VT student because we're talking about land use today and we're seeing it in action. So
Well, I hope we've taught them something.
yes,
Don't get on the planning.
definitely. So are you actually seeing my computer screen that I have shared?
see you.
No.
Yes, we see you.
You see me. Can I share my screen? Is that possible? Am I given permission
Should
to
be
do that?
able- You should be. able-
Okay, all right. So I'm
There
going
you
to go
go.
ahead and share my screen. Okay.
Excellent.
We see
All
you.
right. So thank you very much, first of all, for allowing us to be here today. I know it's been a long evening for you, so we won't take too long, and hopefully this will be a fun presentation for you. So as Rachel said, I'm Dr. Susan Chen. I'm director of the Virginia Tech data science for the public good program, and I'm also associate professor in the Department of Agriculture and Applied Economics at Tech. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to be presenting a project that a group of undergraduate and graduate students worked on for 10 weeks during the summer. And this is part of the program that I direct, which invites Virginia Cooperative Extension professionals to submit proposals to us in the early spring, introducing us to some pressing issues that they would like us to discuss. And these issues usually surround problems that they've been talking to stakeholders about in their community. We chose this as one of the projects to work on. You'll see Goochland up there in the title in the screen in front of you, because as it turned out, Goochland had the exact same question that Rachel was proposing as well. So we did them both. But of course, I'm not going to present Goochland results to you today. I'm going to talk about Powhatan results because they're very interesting and you guys have awesome data. So just so you know. So I'm here today with a student. So as I said, these are these projects were actually developed by our students, but of course, all of our students, they work on it for the summertime and then they all have exams tonight. So it turns out you have, me as a middle-aged lady presenting. So just pretend I'm a young student, but we do have one student who's willing to do this. And this is Samantha Ripley. She's going to present as well. And she worked on this project and she's going to continue to work on this project actually for some graduate work that she's doing throughout the course of the next 4 months. And Samantha is a graduate student in the Agricultural Economics Department as well. So I'm going to start talking about our project and then Samantha's going to jump in. I'm going to, of course, make her do all the heavy lifting. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about what we do. So first of all, what you see in front of you is a website. And if you go to the chat, or Rachel can email this to you afterwards, this is a public facing website that we created for you guys to actually have fun with, right? So you can look at it, you can play with the data, and you can interact with what we've done for you over the 10-week period. So what I'm going to talk about first of all is we are looking at land use in Powhatan County. And what we're really concerned about in this project is land conversion. So just so we're all on the same page, land conversion is a shift in its use from one type to another. So when Rachel approached me, she said she was very concerned about land shifting out of agriculture into something else. For example, into residential. Okay, so that's going to be our focus. So how did we start to look at this problem? Well, we had this great parcel level information that we got from Powhatan County. Rachel was kind enough to help us network with people who were very kind and very patient with our students and helped us to work with this administrative data. So that's what you're going to see Samantha presenting here today. But we had to think about, can we do a profile of these parcels so we have an idea of which land is converting, where is it converting? And when I say a profile of these parcels, we want to know what crops are being grown on these parcels. We want to know what is the soil quality of the parcels. We want to know the proximity to the city of Richmond. We want to know the traffic volume associated with these parcels. Sound familiar, folks? I think we've been talking about a lot of these things today, right? And we use these to study the drivers of what we think is actually going on with land conversion. So we want to know what parcels are converting and what are the attributes of these parcels. So one of the things I always like to do when I start out my students on a project is get to know the community of people that you're working with, okay? So here, and you guys can go in and interact with the website, you'll see we just present some socioeconomic and sociodemographic data. So you can look at bar charts of changes across time. And of course, we're a group of economists here, so we're always interested in employment by industry and what's been happening across time to industry. So we found that ag, I'm an ag economist, ag is pretty static, but we've seen a lot of growth in Powhatan County in education and services just over the 3-year period, the 4-year period between 2017 and 2020. Okay, so you can go through and you can, look at some of these things. The income distribution as well might be of interest, and age distribution of the population just over that 4-year period. So what we're really interested in, as I said before, once we get a feel for the county and what the county actually looks like in terms of demographics, is really what's going on, okay? And so I am going to go ahead and I'm going to turn it to Samantha, where she's just going to talk a little bit about some of these tabs, and she's going to direct me to actually move through the tabs as we go along.
All right, hi, thank you. And I also just want to say thank you all for your time. And I'm actually writing my master's thesis on land conversion in Powhatan, so listening to this meeting was definitely beneficial to me. And now I'm just gonna jump right into it and talk a little bit about policy. And based on the past couple hours, it is clear that a lot goes into land use changes. And we know that individuals are making decisions within the confines of federal, state, and local policy. And in each of these tabs, we drill into policy that could affect the land use decision at each level, at federal, state, and county. And some federal policies incentivize farmers to retire their land to not grow crops. And then other federal policy programs offer insurance or other forms of support that actually incentivize the farmers to continue to cultivate their land. So there's policy on both sides. And then state policy is used to enhance the federal policies and enable local officials to ultimately make their own comprehensive land use plans. And then going by county, we're looking at Powhatan here. And as the map pops up, you can see there's different land falls under different programs. And we'll start by singling out AFD, which is agricultural forestal districts. And this policy was implemented at the state level with the goal of preserving and protecting open spaces, forested areas, and agricultural lands. And this program makes it so land taxes are based on use rather than taxing solely on the market value. And land use for growing crops, for example, is taxed less than developed property. And the state level policy encourages local governments to be purposeful with their property taxes. And the hope of this is to safeguard the rural character of the community. And then next you can filter out to go for protected lands. And this data is based on county zoning ordinances. And this is land with natural features such as streams, corridors, wetlands, etc. And they're the same areas that provide greenways for wildlife corridors. So like paths that wildlife can travel around. And these areas are designated as unbuildable and should be maintained in an undisturbed state. And local, state, and federal regulations apply to the conservation of these areas. And then you can also click on for priority conservation areas. And as you can see, this land is very similar to the protected lands. And these are lands that are considered important for the ecological health and beauty of the county and are recommended for preservation and conservation efforts.
What is the website?
I put it in the chat.
Mhm.
All right, well, you're showing all this and you said we could go on and look at it, but nobody ever gave us.
We don't have the link.
The link's in the chat, so you can just.
Given y'all that.
Because that would be good if we could be looking at it.
Because the writing's so small, we can't see.
Yeah, it'd be good if you could see it. I agree.
Yeah.
We can Google it on our phones.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but
No, that's
That's
good.
fine.
Because we're going to get into some more fun stuff. So it's good that you asked.
Yes.
Gotta be careful.
Y'all have your phones up?
Yeah.
Everybody, HTTPS semicolon forward slash.
I'm slow, hang on.
Maybe it would be easier if you emailed it to them and then they just clicked on the link. Is that possible or no?
I don't have y'all's emails.
Yeah,
but-
just HTTP.
Okay, yep.
DSPG, which stands for Data Science for the Public Good, tools dot shiny apps, SHINYAPPS dot IO /
Hold on. So I got .io / okay.
rural, RURAL _
Can we do underscore on our
Yeah,
phone?
yeah.
Or is it this
Yeah.
one? Oh, wait a minute, I think I got, okay, I got it. I found it. Okay.
Thank you. Land _ use / I think Frank's got it up there now.
Underscore.
Susan, they have big TVs, but it's still small text.
Yeah, it is.
They can see the maps, but.
It is, yep.
Mhm.
Try telling undergrads that they have to do it so that the ladies in the room can read it. I tell them all the time, if I can't read it, it's not big enough.
Did you all get that? Okay.
I don't have it yet.
Let me go back and try it again. This is the one night I wish I brought my computer.
If anyone wants me to help with smaller fingers, I'm happy to help type it for you.
That's not the problem for me.
Okay, and am I sharing? I put it up in a Word document here too. Can you see the Word document?
Yes.
Oh, she was
Yeah,
doing that.
yep. And I tried to make it big so it spans multiple lines. Sorry about that.
Thank you, Susan.
Yeah, no problem.
Sorry, I should have given that to Frank before and that slipped my mind.
A minute, I'm getting there, maybe. I'm trying, hang on. I'm a slow texter typer. Is rural land. All right, let's give this a whack. All right, let's see. The web-
Also, just a small tip, if you do have it up on your phone, it's, if you're reading it this way, sometimes the formatting gets odd, so you can just flip your phone sideways and it is a lot clearer to follow. Great tip. Thanks,
Oh,
Samantha.
don't mess yourself up. Let me just write it down here real quick. Because I don't want to hold everybody up. Because can't type. OSI.
All right, my next question is, now that I got this website, where are you on it?
So we talked through the overview and then we went through the sociodemographic just briefly. And then we're just finished talking about policy. And on the policy tab, there's 3 different subdivisions with federal, state, and county.
Okay.
And the county has the images of Powhatan with the 3 different filters for the different.
Yep, so I'm gonna try and show you. So if you look at the very top, you'll see policy right in the middle, overview, sociodemographics policy. And then on the policy, there's federal, state, and county, and we're looking at county because we're looking at this nice map that you can turn things on and off right here.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Okay, sure. All right, are we good?
Just keep going. I'll get there eventually.
All right, Sam, you want to get going again?
Bad typer.
Okay, so now we can go to land use. And we'll discuss land use in Powhatan County, and you can see there on that graphic that you can click through the different years to just see how land use changes over time. And then
So
if-
these are each parcel of land, and then you're watching the parcel change over time into something else. Go ahead, Samantha.
And then if you go lower on this same page, you'll find a graphic we put together where there's agricultural land and you're able to see where those parcels went. So if you hover over the yellow, you can see that in these large agricultural parcels, a majority of them went over to single family residential, so residential homes. And then you can also see, if you go over to the left on the agricultural smaller plots, that similarly, a lot of the parcels are being transferred to single family residential housing. So just because of the proximity of the state capitol and other employment centers, this does make the county an attractive place for residential growth, which will turn spur economic development. So it makes sense that we're seeing that a large proportion of the agricultural parcels are converting to residential. And then next we'll look at crop layer. So we just have different variables that could play a part in the land conversion, and crop layer does play an important role we're looking into the natural landscape as well as what type of crops are being grown. And the natural landscape, as many of you know, in Powhatan is mostly forest, that's hardwood and evergreen, and it's rolling topography with farms, fields, landmarks, corridors, and different sites throughout the community. And if you scroll down, you can see there's a graphic on total acreage by land type. And you can choose either 2012, which is where our data started. And if you click on that, you can see that there's a lot of forested acreage. And then when you switch to 2021, you can see that there's a decrease in forested, but an increase in things like wetlands, row crops, and developed land. So next we'll talk about soil quality. And this might be intuitive, but soil quality is a variable that plays an important role in decisions regarding land usage. Just because when land is developed, imagine laying a land of concrete on really good soil. You'll never really be able to get that quality of soil back. So it's important to look into this. And if you scroll down, you can see that Powhatan has a lot of class 4, which is very good quality soil, but does have its limitations. But then it also has a lot of class 2, which class 2 soil has less limitations and is great agricultural land. And it's also important to note that there are some class 1 land, and this is the best land in the county, but it makes up about 1,600 acres. And this could be another important variable to look at, just because you do not want to develop on land that's so suitable for agriculture. And then next we'll look at traffic. And the traffic is mostly on the east side of Route 60 and also around Route 288. And most of the recent commercial growth has occurred along the two roads. So this could play a role in land conversion as well. So next we'll jump, and there's also proximity to Richmond, which is a key variable. So next we'll look at parcelation in Powhatan and how land parcels in Powhatan County are converting. So we'll start by going from 2012 to 2013, and just to explain what this map right here is depicting, we analyzed any parcels of land that are breaking apart or changing land use, and we mapped them. And you can see from 2012 to 2013, these are the parcels of land that have converted, and they're in the light pink. And if you go from 2012 to 2014, you'll now see a darker red appear. And those are all the lands that have been parcelized from 2013 to 2014, and then you can continue to go, and all the land that has been parcelized in previous years will stay light pink, and the most recent year will be that dark red. And then yes, and you can go all the way from 2012 to 2021 on this. And then if you click on to the hotspots, This is another map we put together that shows year by year, except for this one, it just graphs the area of land that has the most parcelation going on. So as you, if you just look for all the hotspots overall, you can see that the dark red is the ones where year by year they're stacking. So it's the most parcelization, and it's typically, as you guys would probably assume, it's the hotspots are the center of the county near the courthouse village and around Route 60, the east quarter, and then around the 7-Eleven corridor overlay district around Route 288. And then there's also additional growth sporadically throughout the county that has been just because of lot splits. So yes, that's the parcelization. And now I'll hand it over back to you, Dr. Chen.
Okay, so what Samantha did was she just looked at all of these characteristics of parcels separately. So what I'm gonna do now, and no, I'm not gonna show you any kind of confusing statistical model at 8:48 p.m. on a Tuesday night. I'm just gonna kind of talk you through what we did. So what we were really interested in looking at is land conversion out of ag to something else. And we want to know which one of these factors are associated with land conversion out of ag to something else. So the factors that we looked at, or the attributes of the parcels that we looked at, was, for example, the distance to Richmond, the traffic volume, the soil class, the acreage, and whether or not, funnily enough, the owner lives in Powhatan County, okay? And so what we found out was that, of course, the larger the acreage, the less likely it is to convert out of ag. The soil class had no significant association with converting out of ag. So we're not seeing any land conversion of the best soils or the worst soils. We're just not seeing anything at all with the associations. We saw that the distance to Richmond has a negative effect on converting out of ag. So the closer you are to Richmond, as you would suspect, the more likely you are to convert out of ag. One of the traffic volume has a U shape. That is, the more traffic you have, the more likely you are to convert out of ag, but that's probably going along with the fact that if you are closer to Richmond, you're going to have more traffic, okay? And then the one that made me smile was, if the owner lives in Powhatan County, the less likely you are to convert out of ag. So all of those owners who don't live in the county, they will convert their land. So those are just some of the interesting things that we found when we ran our statistical model and looked at the associations of these characteristics of land as our first blush attempt. So we created this website for people to look at, maybe to study, you know, hotspots. Where is the residential, you know, where's the land converting the most throughout the county? Where is it converting throughout the county across time? And as Samantha said, we're going to continue to work with these data to see if we can refine our analysis to really understand what's going on and what is really prompting conversion. So Sam, do you want to talk a little bit more about what you're doing or say anything else?
Yeah, I'm just, with my thesis, I'm just going to further drill into these variables and just run a more in-depth analysis and hopefully come up with some more conclusions and just, yeah, so that'll be coming in the next 4-6 months. We should be wrapping that up, and I'm excited to potentially present again and have more to give. Yeah, but just thanks again for the opportunity to present this.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Would there be a consideration of the price, the selling price of land in this that would tie into that, or any economic factors that go into that?
Yes. So one of the issues with selling prices, we actually don't know the selling price. And for many rural parcels, they don't change hands enough. So it's not like I can go to Zillow and scrape this kind of information. We do have the tax assessed value. And that's one of the things we need to figure out how to use because there's some issues with tax assessed value and using that as a reflection of the price, particularly for farmland. So
Right.
those are some of the issues that are not easily done in 10 weeks, which is why we've sort of moved this over into a master's thesis project, because they're going to take a little bit more, statistical construction to actually get at those real prices, particularly for ag land, which doesn't typically change hands a lot.
This is really nice. Thank
This
you.
is,
Yeah,
It's-
thank you.
this is really good. I can't wait to get home and pull it up on my computer at home. Will this stay up for a period of time? I mean, this isn't going to be removed or anything, right?
So this is part of a USDA grant that we won to help to engage our students with our rural and rural communities. So this will stay up for at least the next 5 years.
Oh, okay, good.
yes.
Great. That's great.
Thank you so much.
So I can see it better on my computer. at home.
Yes, you can, and it's optimized for a computer, not necessarily a cell phone, because remember, these are undergraduates who've never done this kind of thing. So to get to this point in 10 weeks is great, but they can't necessarily do something as well as professionals would do for it to work on a computer and then, work on your cell phone
Right.
too.
Yeah,
So,
on the cell
yeah.
phone, I tried really hard to play around with it. and it was
Yeah.
Not cooperating.
Yeah, so if you have it on a bigger screen, a laptop or something like that, it's actually pretty fun to play with, particularly if you are from the county and you start to look at the parcelation maps and like, oh, where is that? Where am I in location to that? It's pretty cool.
I have
So,
another question.
Yes.
In developing rural land, do y'all take any consideration of the availability of utilities like water and sewer?
So that actually is in the administrative data. And we wanted to use that during the summertime. But administrative data is not easily used because it's not really built for, analysis. We have to really work with it and tidy it up and make sure that we know what each one of these variables means. So you kind of read my mind. We really wanted to look at that because we think that's a big deal.
It is a very big deal
yeah.
because unfortunately in Powhatan, where the water and sewer is located is in one area down Route 60. And the county currently, if I'm correct in my number, is paying over $1.3 million a year.
Yeah.
Because of that water has not been assigned to a business, a home, whatever. And then where they were pushing for development over near 288, 711 corridor, they have maxed out all the water and sewer usage over there that's available. So those
Yeah.
are pretty big
Yeah.
constraints on
Yeah.
converting rural land into something else.
Yeah, I think so. And so, I think that, Samantha, once she finishes really drilling down into the administrative data, we're going to reach back around to Rachel to maybe talk to folks again to make sure we're looking at the right data items when we, so sometimes we think we have the right one, but because there's no code book that necessarily says, yes, this is the right one, we usually like to check. And Rachel's been really wonderful about hooking us up with the folks there, and they've been so kind to talk to our students and help us really figure out what we're doing. So we're very grateful, and it's been a really wonderful relationship. Thank you, Rachel,
Well,
and everyone else.
Thank you, because your students are future land use experts. So I'm glad they're being trained appropriately.
And Dr. Chen knows that the late Max Timberlake, who was the Farm Bureau president, and I had many conversations over the last 5 or so years about trying to educate the Planning Commission staff and Board of Supervisors about cost of services and having that help make a better informed decision-making. And so this is hopefully some of the foundational data to help us move in that direction to better understand that. And so you all can have all this information at your fingertips.
And also, I think this would be very helpful in addressing the comprehensive plan as
Mhm.
well.
Yep, and some of this information was pulled from some of that was already done for that. for sure.
Population was in there.
Yeah, the population, but I'm just, yeah, it could be very
Well,
helpful.
Thank you all so
Thank
much for your
you.
time. Thank you,
Thank
Dr.
you.
So
Shannon, for the
sorry you
info.
had to wait so late. My apologies.
No
We're
worries.
usually much more efficient than this.
Like I
With
said,
that-
it was a learning experience. Thank you very much. And thank you very much for inviting us to present to you. Take care.
Thank you.
thank
Have a
you.
wonderful evening.
Okay,
Thank
bye.
you. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you. With no further business, I will adjourn the meeting. Our next meeting will be Tuesday, December 6th at 6 o'clock. Good night. Goodness gracious.